7 American towns where the murder rate beats entire countries. Most people think they know which American cities are dangerous. They picture the ones that make national headlines, the big names, the familiar skylines, the cities whose mayors get called out on cable news by name. They are looking in the wrong places. The towns in this video don't have NBA teams or international airports or lobbying groups protecting their image. They are small. They are overlooked. And by the only measure that actually counts, people killed per 100,000 residents, some of them are more lethal than entire countries the US State Department warns tourists not to visit. These are not war zones. They are American towns. Some are within a 40-minute drive of a city you have probably visited. Every number in this video is sourced from the FBI's Uniform Crime Reports, the CDC's Wonder database, US Census Neighborhood Scout, or the Bureau. None of this is speculation. All of it is real. If you want to understand what America actually looks like behind the skylines, stay with us. And if you're new here, subscribe. We don't do surface level. Let's start the count. 7. Chester, Delaware County, Pennsylvania. 16 miles south of Philadelphia, close enough to see the city's skyline on a clear night, Chester is a place the region decided not to look at. Sun Shipbuilding and Dry Dock Company once made Chester one of the most strategically vital cities in America, employing 35,000 workers at its peak during World War II, producing the vessels that crossed the Atlantic under fire. The city held 56,000 people in 1950. It built things that mattered. Sun Ship closed in 1982. Chester spiraled for 4 decades until Pennsylvania placed it under financial receivership in 2020, the first municipality in state history to reach that status. In 2024, Chester recorded 20 homicides in a city of 33,900. A murder rate of 59 per 100,000. Nearly 9 times the national average. That figure exceeds South Africa's national murder rate of 45 per 100,000, according to South Africa's own National Police Service data. South Africa, a country with a history of documented systemic violence. Chester is a county suburb of Philadelphia. A focused deterrence program launched in 2020 has cut homicides by 38%, according to Delaware County District Attorney Jack Stolsteimer. 38%, down from one of the highest rates in the nation, still leaves Chester in crisis. The structure that produced it has not changed. The Delaware River runs along Chester's eastern edge, wide and indifferent. The same water it always was. 6. East Point, Fulton County, Georgia. Tens of millions of passengers pass over East Point every year on approach to Hartsfield-Jackson, the busiest airport in the world, 4 miles to the north. Almost none of them stop. East Point incorporated in 1887 as a railroad junction. For most of the 20th century, it functioned as a stable, working-class suburb of Atlanta. Modest houses, employed residents, a tax base that held together. In 2024, this city of 36,000 reported approximately 30 homicides, a rate of roughly 79 murders per 100,000 residents. Safehome.org identified that figure as the highest murder rate of any extra-small city in the United States that year. For reference, the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime placed Honduras, frequently cited as one of the most violent countries in the Western Hemisphere, at 35 per 100,000 in 2023. East Point's rate is more than double that. East Point became a transit corridor. High foot traffic, low investment, a police department perpetually short-staffed. East Point never built the tax base to insulate itself from Metro Atlanta's economic sorting. As wealth migrated to suburban Fulton County through the 90s and 2000s, Buckhead, one of the wealthiest zip codes in the South, is 11 minutes away by car. If you did not know what to look for, you would never guess they were in the same city. 5. Jackson, Hinds County, Mississippi. Jackson was once a city of 202,000, the commercial and governmental center of Mississippi, a capital with the infrastructure to match. Today, the census estimates its population at 144,000, a loss of nearly 30% since 1980. In 2024, Jackson recorded 111 homicides, a murder rate of 77.2 per 100,000. The national rate is 4.9. Jackson's is 15 times higher. It exceeds Brazil's national murder rate by a factor of nearly 4. In January 2025, Police Chief Joseph Wade stood at a podium and described a year with the city's third consecutive decline in murders. He called it progress, and then he said something that stopped the room. That it still meant 109 people lost their lives in Jackson, and that would never be acceptable. A year that counted as progress in Jackson would be declared an emergency anywhere else in the country. The water system collapsed in 2022. The schools are among the lowest funded in a state that ranks last in education spending nationally. The median household income is $31,000, 46% below the national median. Jackson still has its Capitol dome, its grid of wide avenues, the bones of a city that believed in itself. What it does not have is the resources to survive what was done to it. If this video is landing differently than you expected, hit the like and subscribe button. It tells us this kind of sourced, ground-level reporting is worth doing. And before we get into the top 4, our number 1 entry is a town where a single corporation built an empire, walked away, and kept its logo on the skyline. The outcome is one of the most precise examples of economic abandonment in modern American history. You will not want to miss it. Let's keep going. 4. Albuquerque, Bernalillo County, New Mexico. Albuquerque is the largest city on this list. 560,000 people, a real skyline, a major airport, a university. Size does not dilute the data. In 2023, the city recorded 116 homicides, a murder rate of 20.7 per 100,000, 3 times the national average. New Mexico as a state recorded 11.3 per 100,000 in 2024, more than double the national figure. Albuquerque is what pulls that number up. In 2019, Police Chief Michael Geyer told the Albuquerque Journal that the city was cycling roughly 400 documented gang members per year through a court system with no meaningful intervention. He resigned in frustration in 2020. His successor was fired. The department cycled through 4 chiefs in 5 years. The poverty rate sits at 19.2%, second highest in the nation. New Mexico has the weakest gun laws in the country, graded F by Everytown for gun safety. In the South Broadway corridor and the International District, the murder rate rivals Guatemala's. The Sandia Mountains turn pink at sunset. The Old Town Plaza sells turquoise and green chili to tourists. In the neighborhoods the tourists never enter, residents have been building informal block watch networks for years, because the city could not. 3. Gallup, McKinley County, New Mexico. Gallup sits on Interstate 40 at the edge of the Navajo Nation, a high desert crossroads, 22,000 people, a town that calls itself the Indian capital of the world. The data gives it a different title. FBI. Uniform crime data show Gallup averaging 40 to 50 homicides per 100,000 residents in 2022 and 2023, placing it consistently among the 5 most dangerous small cities in the United States. The driver here is not organised crime or gang networks. It is layered poverty. 33% of residents below the poverty line, combined with a near total absence of behavioural health infrastructure. The Gallup Indian Medical Center has been chronically understaffed for more than a decade. McKinley County records among the highest alcohol-related death rates in the nation, per CDC Wonder data. In 2019, a 10-year-old Navajo boy named Asher Tso was struck by a stray bullet while playing near his home. He survived. His grandmother told reporters she no longer allowed him outside after dark. In a town of 22,000 people. In the United States of America. Federal policies governing reservation boundaries, jurisdictional authority, and tribal funding built this outcome over a century of deliberate decisions. The people living with those consequences had no seat at the table when any of them were made. Gallup is not a place that was neglected by accident. It is a place that was arranged, policy by policy, to absorb more than it was ever given to handle. 2. Stockton, San Joaquin County, California. In 2008, Stockton became ground zero for the most catastrophic implosion of the American housing bubble. Property values dropped 60% in 24 months. Foreclosure signs outnumbered for sale signs. In June 2012, Stockton became the largest American municipality in history to file for Chapter 9 bankruptcy. The filing slashed the police force by 25% and eliminated nearly all social services in a single budget cycle. That year, Stockton's murder rate hit 36.7 per 100,000, the highest of any large American city, above Detroit, above New Orleans. By 2023, 61 homicides in a city of 320,000 yielded a rate of 19 per 100,000, still nearly 3 times the national average. More than a decade after the bankruptcy that triggered the spiral. Councilmember Kimberly Wormsley, representing South Stockton, told The Record in 2023 that when she walked those streets, she saw people who had given up on the idea that the city would protect them. That is not a political statement. It is a description of what structural abandonment looks like from inside. The police department remains 30% smaller than its 2008 staffing level. The structural conditions that produced the crisis have not been reversed. Stockton is recovering in the language of economics. It has not recovered in the language of the people who stayed. 1. Benton Harbor, Berrien County, Michigan. There is a river in southwestern Michigan. It is 4 minutes across by car. On one side sits St. Joseph, the Riviera of the Midwest, 84% white, per capita income approaching $38,000, boutique hotels, a functioning hospital, a waterfront that attracts visitors from Chicago. On the other side is Benton Harbor, 84% black, per capita income of $18,000. No hospital, no grocery store, lead in the water. Whirlpool Corporation built its empire in Benton Harbor. Washing machines, refrigerators, and dishwashers that filled American homes for generations came from plants that employed thousands of Benton Harbor residents. Whirlpool was not just a company in this town, it was the economy. Then Whirlpool closed every factory. It moved production overseas, relocated its workforce, and shuttered its last Benton Harbor plant in 2011. Its $68 million global headquarters still stands downtown. For years after the closures, it paid effectively no property taxes to the city it had hollowed out, sheltered by tax abatements extended during its years of political influence. Today, 40% of residents live in poverty. The violent crime rate is 5 times the national average. The chance of becoming a victim of violent crime is 1 in 14. A figure Neighborhood Scout places among the most dangerous in the country. From 2018 to 2021, residents paid monthly water bills for water contaminated with lead, while state and federal regulators failed to escalate the crisis in time. A government watchdog confirmed in 2022 that the EPA had the data and did not act. In 2011, Michigan placed Benton Harbor under emergency financial management, one of the most aggressive uses of state authority over a local government in American history. The emergency manager suspended the power of elected city officials for nearly 3 years. The residents of Benton Harbor, who had already lost their economy, temporarily lost their vote. What happened in Benton Harbor did not happen because of chaos or randomness or cultural failure. It happened because a corporation extracted value from a community for decades, then left with its profits. The poverty, the lead, the violence, the loss of democratic representation. These were not separate crises. They were the sequential chapters of a single story. Benton Harbor is not a place whose company left. It is a place whose company stayed long enough to be celebrated, then departed in a way that was entirely legal, and left a city to absorb every cost of its exit. The river between Benton Harbor and St. Joseph is one of the shortest distances in America between two entirely different worlds. It is not a natural boundary. It is a constructed one. 7 towns, 1 pattern. The national murder rate is at its lowest recorded level in decades. That progress is real. But it does not reach Benton Harbor. It does not reach Gallup. It does not reach Pine Bluff. Those places are on a different trajectory. Shaped not by random crime, but by compounding structural failure stretching back generations. If you live in one of these cities, if you grew up there, if you left and still carry it with you, tell us in the comments. What do the statistics miss? What does it actually feel like to live in a place the rest of the country decided wasn't worth saving? Share this video with someone who thinks they already know what dangerous America looks like. They are probably wrong about where to look. The most dangerous thing in America is not a city. It is the decision to stop paying attention. Thank you for watching. If this video was worth your time, share it with someone that would need such information. And check out the rest of the channel for more stories like these.